Hello and welcome to Carved in Stone, where I pick a topic and give you my Mount Rushmore of that topic. So basically, my top four. But I will mention more than four selections. Lists, of course, are subjective, and narrowing it down to four is narrowing it down quite a bit. So I'll explain why some picks may fall just short of my mountain. I'm your host, Shawn Chabam. Happy New Year! On the first episode of 2026, I will be giving you my concert wish list Mount Rushmore, the four concerts I want to attend the most. This podcast is not affiliated with, sponsored, or endorsed by any of the artists mentioned, their record companies, or any of their properties. These videos were filmed at live events and are shared for personal commentary and entertainment purposes. All rights to music performances and logos belong to their respective owners. All still images of our artists in this episode are sourced from Wikimedia Commons and are believed to be in the public domain or available under a Creative Commons license. For this list, as I stated, I am creating my Mount Rushmore of bands or artists I most want to see live in concert. If I've seen a band as an opening act, I am considering them ineligible for this mountain. I have to have never seen them perform live, not even one song in person, and there has to be a chance that it could happen, meaning there have to be living members of the band who could possibly still tour under that name. This means, for example, Elvis Presley is not eligible because, contrary to popular belief, he is dead. Queen is also ineligible because they now call themselves Queen with Adam Lambert, which I think is a great acknowledgement to Freddie Mercury that no one will ever take his place. Um, However, the Rolling Stones would theoretically be eligible despite losing some members, since they still tour under that band name. That said, I have seen the Rolling Stones live. That's where I got this shirt. So they are not on my list. It was just the best example I could think of. First up, my all time favorite female artist, Joan Jett. It really wouldn't matter to me who I saw her with. If she just did a completely solo show, was with the Blackhearts or the surviving members of the Runaways, I just think seeing her with anyone would be great. I love her music, her voice, her attitude. I could sit around and listen to her all day. She actually has toured near me quite a bit. It's just never worked out where I could go. Probably the closest I ever was to seeing her was when she toured with Poison, Motley Crue, and another band I'm not going to mention right now because they'll have a minute later on. They were playing stadiums, but it was in the middle of summer. I get really bad migraines if I'm in the heat for too long, so I decided not to go, and that's a shame because I really, really like all of the bands that were on that tour, and I would love to see all of them. The only one I had previously seen was Motley Crue. I'm pretty sure those tickets were also expensive, which would have also worked against me. I, I do regret not going to that show though, and just taking some medicine beforehand and seeing what happened. So half of that show is now on my wish list. And in case you never saw my concert Mount Rushmore episode, where I gave my Rushmore of concerts I have attended, I love rock and roll. May as well get the suspense over with since I already teased them. They were on a stadium tour with Joan Jett, Motley Crue, and Poison. If I recall correctly, Joan Jett was more of a special guest opener, and the other three co headlined. I could be wrong, but one of those bands on that tour is on this list. Here's another group for the mountain who I've never seen live, and they are Def Leppard. Def Leppard is the quintessential 80s hair band. People love to talk about Rick Allen's one arm and his insane drumming ability despite losing a limb. I feel like Pour Some Sugar on Me would just tear the house down live. They have some great power ballads that I'm sure would have been awesome to hear and see in their heyday with people holding up their lighters. Holding up phones now isn't quite the same feeling. I could just imagine how cool it would be uh, hearing Have You Ever Needed Someone So Bad with 25,000 lighters waving in the air. They are still touring, so never say never. Maybe someday Def Leppard will be ineligible for this mountain. I'd love that. I'd love for all four of my picks to become ineligible due to seeing them live. Hopefully, not due to deaths. I mean, they wouldn't be on my wish list if it didn't bug me that I've never been to a show. Def Leppard, by the way, has some of the greatest album covers ever. Someday I do intend to do a mountain of album covers, and I may even go and get more specific and just do one of only Def Leppard covers. They're that good that I could easily pick four of their covers to go on the mountain. The problem would be which ones to exclude. And speaking of excluding, let's do the honorable mentions. First, and this band was so close to making the mountain, but I just decided Def Leppard would be a little more fun. Def Leppard, as I said, was the quintessential hair band. This would be the quintessential 90s grunge band, Pearl Jam. Okay, okay. Before you mention Nirvana, Kurt Cobain is dead, so Nirvana doesn't count today. Same for Soundgarden and Chris Cornell. Plus, I freaking love early Pearl Jam. 10, their debut album, one of my favorites of all time. They continued rocking with Verses. I was disappointed in Vitalogy, but then No Code and Yield were both nice. I don't listen to a ton of their stuff since then, which didn't help their case to make this list. But really, they barely missed because I just feel that Def Leppard would have you happy and moving the whole time, and you might not get that with Pearl Jam. They can be a little more mellow. By the way, look look up LinkedIn names sung by Eddie Vedder. Effing hysterical. Real quick, three more before I get back to who is on Rushmore today. Two underrated bands, Tonic and Volbeat, as well as r.e.m. I know r.e.m. doesn't tour anymore, but they are alive, so I'll say it again, never say never. All right, back to who is on this mountain. Soul Asylum. Again, they had one of my favorite albums ever, Let Your Dim Light Shine. I think they're extremely underrated. A lot of people probably immediately go to Runaway Train when they think of Soul Asylum songs, which is a great tune, don't get me wrong, but they're not a one-trick pony. Runaway Train was on Grave Dancers Union, so not even my favorite album. Admittedly, Dave Pirner, the singer, never had the best voice, and I've heard him lately, and it's only gotten worse with age, to be honest. But I still put them on this mountain because I just love their music so much. And I think I would have a great time just remembering how things were as I heard them blast out Misery, Bitter Sweetheart, or Just Like Anyone. And I mean, I listen to some artists who don't have the best vocals, but they still make me feel good. Jarrett Ray Reddick, the singer of Bowling for Soup, for example, doesn't have the best voice in the world, but I love his band as well as his country solo work. I've seen Bowling for Soup in concert, by the way, so they aren't up there today. Ozzy Osbourne was another, not a ton of range, but he did what he could do perfectly. Of course, Ozzy is not on this list, unfortunately. He would have been there before he passed away. Soul Asylum is probably the band to make it in his place. I'm pretty sure they're the ones I would have kicked off if Ozzy were still alive, but regardless, Soul Asylum is now atop my concert wish list, Mount Rushmore. To end things, another female artist I absolutely adore, the insanely underrated Lilith Czar. I would love to see her. Her debut album, Created from Filth and Dust, is a masterpiece from start to finish, in my opinion. She was previously known as Juliette Sims, which I believe is her real name. She was at least known by that professionally. She was the lead singer of the band Automatic Love Letter and was a contestant on The Voice, placing second. She probably doesn't have as many songs under her belt, under her current name, to headline a ton of her own shows. When Hailstorm played the Delaware State Fair a few years ago, they were in the middle of a cola headlining tour with The Pretty Reckless, and Lilith Czar was opening. Well, the fair puts out this social media post with all three of them on a flyer, and I'm freaking out because I love all three, right? And I already have tickets. And then, oh, just kidding. I don't even remember who opened for Hailstorm that night, but it wasn't Lilith Czar. The Pretty Reckless wasn't there either. The social media team just lazily took something from Hailstorm's social and reposted it without bothering to look who was playing with them at the fair or to think that there's a lot of overlap in the fan bases of those artists. I was really irritated that I got my hopes up like that. I have since then seen Hailstorm. They still played the fair. I still went. And I saw the Pretty Reckless open for AC/DC, so they couldn't be on the list. Man, now I'm angry about that State Fair show. I should have seen Lilith Czar at that concert. But I digress. Hailstorm was still great. RJ Hale, the drummer, was incredible, and Lizzie Hale has such powerful vocals. Anyway, that's a wrap for this episode of Carved in Stone. Thank you for joining me on the first episode of 2026. I hope you stick around for all of them. And if you're so inclined, let me know who is on your concert wish list, Mount Rushmore. To recap mine, Joan Jett, Def Leppard, Soul Asylum, and Lilith Czar. If you haven't done so, please subscribe to the channel, like the video. I'll see you in 2 weeks. Go Birds!